Only 6 wide receivers since 2020 have had over 125 targets or more as a rookie. These names are like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, and Jalen Waddle. Now, of those 6, only 4 played with the same quarterback in year 2 than they did year 1. That's going to be Puka Nacua with 18 points per game, Justin Jefferson, 19 points per game, Jamar Chase, 20 points per game, and Jalen Waddle, 15 points per game. Now, why am I telling you this at the beginning of this video? It's because there is a wide receiver in this same scenario this year, and his name is Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka is one of those wide receivers I'm going to talk about today that you do not want to miss out on. Do not fade these receivers because they have some of the biggest potential going into this year, a lot of targets to fill, and some of the highest talent that you're going to find for potential breakouts that aren't already broken out. Obviously, he lost Mike Evans. The whole fantasy world knows that. There's no secrets behind that. The big thing about losing him was actually the first read targets. So he gives up 53 first read targets now. That's 53 trusted targets that Baker Mayfield needs to find. And that means he has to find a receiver that he trusts the most. And if you didn't know this, last year Igbuka had 71% of his targets be first read targets. So that means he was trusting him. So Puka Nakua, he had 71%. That shows you how elite that number is. Jamar Chase was even under that number. So now he has the targets to fill. We know he has the talent. But now we look at the scenario. He averaged 11 points per game just over the whole season. When he had Godwin or Evans, one of them out and one of them in, he actually averaged a higher points per game, which was 14 points per game, showing that if he has Godwin in the game, or Evans, but obviously not Evans, if he has Godwin in the game, he's going to technically play better than he would as being just the one, no one else, or being the three. And he also had the 8th most air yards in 2025. So air yards, if you don't know what air yards are, that's basically all of the yards that he was thrown to. So if he was throwing a 70-yard bomb and you didn't catch it, that still counts as your air yards. We're going to move on to the next receiver, Luther Burden. Luther Burden is someone you can be very, very high on. You can be very low on. Personally, me, I'm like right here with him. I'm pretty high on him, but I'm not like, I'm still kind of curious on, the way he's being drafted in best ball drafts. But the big thing here is we clearly know that he lost DJ Moore. Losing DJ Moore, it opened up like 150 targets to the wide receiver. Kind of insane. We know we have the targets there available. That's simple math. Now let's look at, was he good? Technically, Luther Burden was very good. Now, you can argue there was a small sample size, which kind of, made his numbers a little iffy. But if you didn't know, the yards per route run is like one of the biggest stats you can look at for elite wide receivers. And you can predict breakouts off of this too. It went Puka Nacua at number 1 last year, JSN at number 2, and number 3 was Luther Burden, which is kind of insane. Let's look at some more stats. Let's try to see maybe if we can like adjust that or something like that. And I look and I go into the efficiency of them, and you look at target separation, which is one of the biggest indicators of, elite wide receivers too, is getting the best separation. I mean, it's literally your goal as a wide receiver. He was number 2 last year at 2.63. And again, you have a smaller sample size, but I think that if you look at the yards per route ran and the target separation showing elite, I think that clearly indicates he's at least a very above average wide receiver. And knowing that they have 150 targets to fill, this wide receiver could very easily fill those targets and play at an elite level. So lastly, I'm going to show you about Luther Burden is this tweet. So I'm probably going to pop it up right here. Luther Burden had 2.69 yards per route ran, which is second since 2010 in wide receivers. And let's look at a list of these names. Odell Beckham, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Lad McConkey, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., Chris Olave, Rasheed Rice, and Tyreek Hill. That is a great list of names to be on. I'm just going to tell you that. The alternate world is Adunze plays for this team. Adunze is a good wide receiver too. Adunze's or not a wide receiver too, but he's a good wide receiver as well. Now, Adunze proved last year. That's the thing. He proved last year that he was getting better from his rookie season. That's what we like to see. Now, here's the difference with Adunze. This is why you kind of have to choose Luther Burden or Adunze. Who do you think is going to break out? Who do you think is going to be the better pick when it comes to fantasy football? Now, Roma Dunze, the reason why I think I kind of like him a little bit more than Burton this year is for a couple of reasons. Number one, he had a pretty high target share. He was the wide receiver 17 and first read targets, which is over 31%, which is different than the targets I showed earlier. It's a different stat, different kind of stat. And then that means that Caleb Williams trusts this receiver. And also, if we look at his fantasy points per game, he went up last year. and from 2024, and he actually only played 12 games, doubled his touchdowns, and almost surpassed his yards just in those 12 games. The biggest thing I think I see about Roma Dunze is the draft capital you can get him in these drafts. If you look at this screenshot I'm posting up here, you're going to see Roma Dunze was taken after Igbuka, McLaurin, Burden, DJ Moore, Carnell Tate. But the big thing you see about Adunze here is if you take Burden, you have to bet on him being one of the best receivers in the draft. Now, I'm not here to tell you don't take Burden. I'm actually here to say if Burden breaks out, it's kind of obvious that it was coming if you really look if you actually look at the stats. But also, you get put in a position if you're in the middle of these drafts sometimes where if you take Burden, you're likely going to have to take like DJ Moore or Carnell Tate versus if you get Igbuka, you could actually get a Dunze as well. I mean, if you're in best ball, you can take Burden and a Dunze, but when it comes to actual redraft and dynasty and stuff, or maybe just redraft, you might be able to get Igbuka and a Dunze. And I would tell you, I think Ibuka and a Dunze is better than having Luther Burden and DJ Moore. So that's kind of why I like taking a Dunze. And if I had to put like safer money on this, a Dunze would be the better potential breakout for this. But Burden, I think, has a higher ceiling based off what we've seen. And if you're going for someone and you're going all in, it's definitely going to be Luther Burden. Don't sleep on Luther Burden and Dunze because if you do that, these are people that have so many targets coming their way and they play at an elite level, especially Luther Burden on paper right now. So if one of them break out and you purposely fade them, it's kind of all on you for purposely not taking them. And the next wide receiver I'm going to talk about is Christian Watson. Christian Watson, he's one of them players that you have to gamble on him being healthy. And I like to bet on people in best ball as just if they're going to be fully healthy because Christian Watson, I believe, has been hurt every year. And it's kind of annoying because, you get him and he has this upside and you kind of get a little excited for it. And then he's hurt and then he has like a problem and it lingers and it's like, oh my goodness. But Christian Watson, you can't deny, is elite in when it comes to paper. I mean, he has a very high yards per route ran. He was 6 last year. He was top 10 in every year he's played. And if you watch him, you know he's a good receiver. He's strong, he's fast, he's big, he's everything you want out of a receiver. But the big thing I see here is Christian Watson has 1,600 air yards available on his team, and inside the red zone, they have 13 targets available, which means he could increase in touchdowns based on if he goes through the whole season and plays. So if Christian Watson can stay healthy, we know he's an elite receiver. That's why I don't want to sleep on him. I don't want to fade him. He has so much potential with these air yards and he's elite talent. We don't know if Josh Jacobs is playing, if he's not. And the thing is if Josh Jacobs plays, it could make the offense overall more efficient, which could help the wide receivers. But also, if he's gone, that could be a lot more targets. It could be, them trying to throw the ball in some garbage time, getting points in PPR leagues. But if we're looking for for another best ball option here, I'm thinking someone like Matthew Golden, which is on the same team. Yes, I think Matthew Golden's a good pick. I think you can't fade him based off his talent and based off of, again, the same amount of air yards and receptions available for the Green Bay Packers going this year. Golden, a lot of people like to argue that I've seen it is that he wasn't good, that he didn't get, a lot of his yards per route ran was actually pretty low. And I went and I looked into it. I dove a little deeper into it, and he's actually pretty efficient. He was ninth in target separation, and target separation versus man is really good. So that means, in best ball, if he's going downfield on one, he's actually pretty good. He had a pretty high contested catch rate, and then also if you look into it, he for his yards per route ran, this is kind of digging too deep on it. If you look at his games where he was actually utilized, like 5 targets more, 4 targets more, he actually had a very high yards per route ran, but super low, super low sample size. So you don't really want to focus too much on that, but just have that supporting data looking at you and saying, hey, he actually wasn't that bad. Like I said, he has a good separation, which is really efficient for young wide receivers. And the thing that I look about Golden is Christian Watson played for the Packers, and they ended up getting more wide receivers, drafting Golden earlier and that kind of stuff, right? But our second year with Golden, we see is they got rid of Romeo Dobbs, which was one of their best receivers. And that shows that their team is actually putting the trust in Matthew Golden to be a receiver and step up in Green Bay. Let me know in the comments who you guys think out of these 5 receivers should have been on this list, who you guys, you guys hate seeing on this list. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching the video. Peace.